What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I wanted to talk to you about Keys from the Golden Vault, the latest book from the Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons team. Now, this book technically doesn't come out, I don't think, until next Tuesday, and I wasn't really sure whether I was going to get copies of it or do a review on it. But funnily enough, a key code for it arrived for free in my email. So for the D&D Beyond version of it, so I figured I'd activate it and we could talk about it. Now, I just want to say up front that I am under no obligation to talk about it, and I don't have to talk about it if I don't want to. But I was curious to take a look at it and see kind of what's contained within. So there is some new magic items and some new monster stat blocks, and I'll cover those in a future video. But I wanted to talk about the adventure, or at least the book itself, right? It's a heist anthology. How does it do? Is it good at doing are there heist mechanics, unique things that you can use for this in your 5th edition game if you want to try to run a heist? Or is it mostly on the DM, or at least on the scenario, to kind of figure this out? Is there stuff you can apply on everything, or is it basically just, the adventure dictates everything? So we're going to talk about that in just a second, but before we do, I wanted to talk to you about this sponsor for today's video, our good friends over at Nord Games. Now, if you recall, a couple weeks back, I did an original video when it kind of first launched on the Oracle character generator. As you can see here, it is absolutely shredded through its $10,000 goal, currently sitting at 190K with almost 3,000 backers, 2,900 backers at this point with 10 days left to go. And what this ultimately is a fantastic tool with amazing cards that you can use to generate NPCs or PCs, really, for that matter. There is a PDF preview that you can just click right here and download, and it basically will walk you through how to create a character. In this instance, we have the heroes and champions, and there are a variety of cards, and then each card has multiple options on it, like you can see. 4 different options for sort of character class, as it were. Then we go to personality, and you pick a different ones. You could choose these all at random. You could roll a die. You could mix and match them together, have somebody else pick them for you. Motivation, and then again, some sort of flaw. And I think there's also an intrigue piece here at the end, like some possible secret. Right? If you back this and you go at the PDF level, you'll actually have it when the PDF or when the Kickstarter closes in 10 days. You'll have it. The PDF of the full version already exists. If you're looking to get the actual physical cards, you're going to have to wait until next year just because of printing and things like that. Or actually, maybe not. If you're looking for a virtual tabletop version, it'll be in April. The actual box will be, next year. And then they have it for a variety of different NPCs, and you can mix and match. And I'm sure, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think there are over 1 million different options of things you can create if you combine all these together, different characters that you could build. So a lot of options here for you. And again, as you can see, tons of people have already backed it. Because they believe in, Nord Game products. So thank you, Nord Games, for sponsoring this video. I'll have a tracking link at the top of the video description, as well as a pinned comment. So let's jump back to Keys from the Golden Vault. So I just want to comment real quick. There are no appendices in this book, but they did call out stat blocks as well as magic items sort of uniquely as their own section, more often than not at the end of the adventure, post the conclusion. So if you're reading through it, you just flip to the end of the adventure to see whatever the stat blocks are or the magic items. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the intro piece of this, as well as the first adventure and how I think it holds up in comparison to this concept. So first of all, are there heist mechanics that are unique to this adventure? No, not really. I was hoping maybe we'd see something. Although, again, I'll be honest, a lot of the heist nature of a heist-based adventure falls on the way the DM describes and designs it, or in this case, the way the adventure is run. Now, I was wondering if we'd see something similar to like the lesser-known chase mechanics in the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you're familiar. I did a video on that years ago. But there's a mechanic for like if you want to replicate someone chasing after somebody, they have a separate set of rules as opposed to just like, what's your movement speed? I run you down. And I like that. It's kind of like a game within a game, a mini game, if you will. And those I often very much enjoy. So I was hoping we'd see some sort of unique heist mechanic. But no, it's basically the adventure dictates that. They give you two options, which are not really much of anything. We'll talk about them. It talks about, what it's like to run a heist. It shows you off the 13 adventures. For those of you that are counting here, you'll see that there are 2 for level 8 and 2 for level 5. So again, it comes to 13. It talks about the Golden Vault, right, which is essentially your potential benefactor if you want. They are your person providing the missions if you need them to be. They also can dump exposition about stuff that the party may not know if you need to give them more information that they couldn't find themselves. They also have these cool music boxes that you put keys in and turn, and it provides basically the mission brief, and then the key disappears. This is like this message will self-destruct kind of a thing, except the key disappears, so you hear the mission, and then it's over. Again, we have Mira right here is sort of the handler, the kind of face of the Golden Vault for the party. And then basically, as far as, like I said, mechanics, you have 2 things that are called heist complications. And it's basically like if something's going wrong and you need to make it go more wrong, or something's going so well that you need to switch things up to make it more difficult for the party, try one of these things. And the first one is literally called the moving MacGuffin. And it's basically, that thing they were supposed to do? Move it. Like, that's it. That's the whole thing. Essentially, it's like, hey, they're supposed to steal this gem, and it's supposed to be in, wing A. It's not in wing A. Maybe it's in wing D, and they need to know. They find maybe notes of like, oh, we moved it to this location, and they're like, oh no, yeah, we got to change up our whole carefully crafted plan. And this is, again, I'm being a little harsh on this because, it's one of those things where in my head, I'm like, do you really need to call that out specifically? But I've seen it time and time again that especially newer players don't feel comfortable doing things unless the book tells them they can. And I think we do a good job as we kind of grow as DMs to break away from the fact that we can kind of just do whatever we want. But sometimes folks want to have things written and literally spelled out in black and white to tell you that it's okay to do it. But this is not uncommon if you've ever watched any sort of heist-based film or show where they're like, okay, they go to get the thing and they set up the whole plan and they do it all and they're ready to go and they go to get it and they're like, it's not here. Where is it? And then someone's like, oh my God, I got eyes on it. It's on the move. It's over here, blah, blah, blah. And then they have to change their entire plan to go get it. And that is a good mark of, if the party is struggling to get to the point where they even get whatever they're trying to steal, maybe you don't complicate it. But if it's like a breeze and they're acing their checks and it doesn't even seem like a challenge and you want it to be, then yeah, maybe you move it. And it could be one of those situations where they just cased the joint and figured out they focused all their efforts on this one specific area because that's where the thing they're trying to steal is going to be. And then it turns out that it got moved and now they have no intel and no recon on it. And their timetable is, the time bomb is ticking. They have to get to it soon. And that's another thing I will say. And the first adventure, which we're going to talk about briefly, does that, is putting a time limit, right? Like it's going to be available for this long. There's only a 5-minute window where we can actually get access to the thing. The time-sensitive nature of these things is critical because if the party has an unlimited, if it's a vault that's locked away somewhere and there's no rush to get it. Now, there could be something about just breaking into a crazy vault, but I think the timetable element of a heist makes it a little more tense and exciting when it's we only have 10 minutes to get this thing. We have that short window where it becomes available. We have to get in there, get the thing, and get out. And then especially if you do something like move it and they only have 5 minutes to do it, that could take forever. And it could never be, they might just fail. And that's another thing you need to be aware of with these heists is they don't have to succeed. And to its credit, the adventures do often provide options for if the heist fails, here's some things you can do to continue the adventure. And that is also something I appreciate, assuming that the party just won't automatically succeed. The other complication, aside from the moving MacGuffin, is a rival crew, and I don't think I really need to explain that. That's basically another group of thieves is trying to steal the thing you're trying to steal. But it does actually go on to do a good job of actually describing a variety of the other people, as well as what their motivations might be for stealing things. So now I'm going to talk about the level 1 adventure, the Merkmeyer Malevolence, which I know Prisoner 13 is available as well for free, or at least it was, so you can pick that one up for free. I really like the Merkmeyer Malevolence. It's a museum heist, which I think is pretty classic. I like a lot of the things that I see in it, and I think it does a good job, at least from that one, which is one I read kind of in its fullest. It also has the dinosaur on the front cover as like the art of it, so that kind of caught my interest. So I am going to tell you spoiler alert, because if you are going to play the Merkmeyer Malevolence or something, I want to make sure you don't get it spoiled for you. So this is your official spoiler warning. Click away until you play it, or, enter at your own risk here, right? 3, 2, 1. All right, the Merkmeyer Malevolence, as I said, as you can see from the art here, is a museum heist. And what's really cool is it's a natural history museum, and an archaeologist just unearthed a rare green gemstone from the Merkmeyer, which is basically like a region. I don't know if in my head it's a swamp because of mire, but either way. And it turns out that upon further inspection, the archaeologist who unearthed it believes it's not actually a gemstone, it's an egg that contains some kind of eldritch horror. And the process of removing the stone, the Merkmeyer stone, from its starting location of the Merkmeyer accelerates the timetable to hatch this thing. And now you need to steal it and contain it before the eldritch horror hatches. That is a fantastic timetable-based thing, and I very much appreciate that. So your goal is to basically get into the museum, case the joint, steal the egg, and get it back to the doctor so she can contain it before it hatches into an eldritch horror. Awesome, right? They give you some backstory on the doctor. They say that it would probably be helpful if the party has some sort of connection to the doctor in some way, because otherwise you might just be like, whatever, just blow it off. So they give you some options there. Again, we talked about how the clock is ticking, and essentially you need to go in and steal it. There's a couple of things. I do appreciate that the doctor basically drew up a hand-drawn map of the location with her own annotations about could there be security here? Is there access to the roof? And this would kind of be like the map that you drop on the table when you're like, all right, let's figure it out. Here's the plan. And then you go through and you do that. And I do like this. There is a DM map later on that kind of has different areas, the various annotations for the rooms and more information on it. They also are hosting a gala to celebrate the launch of this new exhibit. I should also point out that when the doctor does bring up her concerns about it being an eldritch horror egg to the curator, they kind of blow her off and say, it's pseudoscience. The exhibit opens as planned. And then essentially the doctor has fancy clothes in a bag of holding if you would like to swap out your armor and your casual gear to attend the gala. She also supplied a ticket for everybody, and you can use this as an opportunity to case the room in which the Merkmeyer stone is held and look for security measures. If you don't attend the gala, you might be able to use that as an opportunity to go around the rest of the museum to figure out what other kinds of security measures are there as part of casing the joint. Again, there are 12 different guards that actually all have names and a little bit of descriptions about them. And then essentially what it comes down to is the security measures and how are you going to get the stone. So a lot of the rooms have audible alarm spells cast on them, but the way you get around that is the museum curator as well as the guards have basically little card keys that allow them to basically swipe them, and it disables the audible alarm spell. So part of the thing you're going to probably want to do is steal one of those codes, or one of those cards, rather. It's a card. I keep saying code. It's a card. Steal one of the cards from one of the guards so that you can sneak through the museum without being detected. There are also animated armor statues throughout when the museum closes. As long as you stay more than 5 feet away from the animated armor, they won't activate and try to attack you. You also have to avoid the guards themselves. So this could come down to setting something off to provide a distraction, to pull the guards to a different area so you can sneak in. Here is the gala. Here is the merkmeyer stone itself. You can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. And then again, the concept of how do you get in, right? There's an option here for hiding in the museum, right? Finding a place where you can stay so that after the museum closes, you could be inside and sneak out, as opposed to having to sneak back in. And then they have a little bit here about who's at the gala, what kind of rumors there are, meeting the curator of the museum who has the master key that allows you to get past anything. And then it just basically goes into describing, here's again the DM's map and all the various locations, and then starts describing everything there. And for the most part, it's the animated armor, it's the guards and how you're going to take them down. There are a couple of traps in here to look out for. The Allosaurus that we saw is actually an animatronic Allosaurus that, with a correct check, you can override it and then cause the Allosaurus to rampage around as a potential distraction to pull guards away. Also, there are some potions and things contained around here. One of the archaeology weapons exhibit actually has 2 +1 weapons in it, so potentially your party may want to lift this +1 dagger and +1 hand axe, possibly. Although that's not your ultimate goal, it's an option you have. And then again, you get to there's a fake stone as well contained in there, so they might accidentally pick the wrong one. But when you get to the gemstone wing and actually get to it, it has a rigged pressure trap thing. And if you set it off and remove it from the pedestal, it sets off an arcane lock, shutting all the doors to the room and locking you in. And that's a DC 20 Thieves Tools check to pick that lock, or a DC 20 Strength check to pry that door open. And it does, however, say replacing the merkmeyer stone with a fake can prevent the trap from triggering. So if you happen to take the fake stone, you can kind of Indiana Jones swap them real quick and then not possibly trigger the arcane lock. And then again, you got to get out with the stone itself. Then it comes to the conclusion, right? They have a couple of things here. What happens if you succeed? How could you continue this adventure? A reminder, this is an anthology. So if you don't want to continue to play the other adventures in this and you want to just continue to key off this one, you can do that. And they give you a couple of options for if the mission is successful versus if the mission is a failure. So one is you neutralize the stone, everything's good, but then somebody else finds... Oh, I should also have pointed out, at 10:30 p.m., the stone goes clear and you can see the eldritch horror contained within. And if it gets to midnight, the eldritch stone hatches. And then it becomes basically an Ankeg, uses an Ankeg stat block, but it deals poison damage instead of acid damage. And I will remind you that an Ankeg is a challenge rating 2 creature, so it could be dangerous by itself for the party to just face that by themselves, especially because they're going to be level 1. So again, another stone is found. It's much closer to hatching, and basically when the party gets to the location to find it, it's already hatched. Let's see. There's a creature that appears in the zoo nearby that they also find out that people start to investigate. The animals are getting agitated. The baby crocodiles are missing. And it's already, there's another one there that's hatched that's kind of living in the zoo. Or you go through the efforts of trying to prove that the doctor was credible in what they said, because they've been discredited by the university for what their kind of crazy theories about this eldritch horror egg. How do you reinstate and convince them that, the theft was for, if they get caught being the thieves, whatever it needs to do to reinstate the doctor's good name. And then if it's unsuccessful, right, what happens? The curator steals the stone for herself, renders the stone unhatchable, but in the process transforms into some sort of monstrosity and locks herself in her manor. So now you have like a Call of Cthulhu manor adventure where the eldritch horror has transformed from, like, the egg is fine, but the person is there. Museum feeding frenzy is the other one. You're unable to succeed, and it basically starts eating all the guards. And then if you don't stop it within a few days, it grows into a juvenile eldritch horror, which is a challenge rating 11 creature that uses a Bahir stat block, except instead of having the 7 intelligence of a Bahir, it has an 18 intelligence, and it also has spellcasting abilities. which is pretty awesome. And again, a challenge rating 11 creature for a group of level 1 characters to fight is probably not going to go well. And then we have a little bit about the stone itself, because it does have magical properties. Starting at 10:30 p.m., it will pulse every 10 minutes. And then there's an effect here. People need to make a wisdom saving throw if they're within 20 feet of it, or they're affected by this. And that ends until it's neutralized. I should also point out that the archaeologist has like a box that you put it in that will neutralize the egg so it stops hatching. Or until the egg hatches. And it could be beneficial things like advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, or it could be things like ripples pulse under your skin, like vermin are skittering inside your flesh. You have disadvantage on charisma checks and charisma saving throws. Any of these effects will last until you ultimately stop the egg in some way. So there you go, folks. That is the keys from the Golden Vault. A little bit of an overview about it, as well as kind of a quick run through about the first adventure, the merkmeyer Malevolence, which from what I've read so far is one of my favorites. It's a classic museum heist. It's got the timetable element to it. A little bit of eldritch horror in there as well, which is kind of cool. So I think this is at least this adventure does a pretty good job of doing it. And it kind of states what I was going around at the beginning, saying that, the adventure is really what defines the heist, not the mechanics. So if you were looking for some sort of unique heist mechanic, it's not really here, but the adventures are at least designed in such a way that you can use them as possibly a template for your own adventure, or if you're looking to play something that's specifically tied to just roguish nature and things like that, then maybe pick up Blades in the Dark, right? And that's designed to be a roguish adventure. It's made for that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Again, thank you to Nord Games for sponsoring this video. I will see you all next time.